So today we're going to look at how to do the yoke walk. As you see behind me, we have a yoke. Now it's a very specialized piece of equipment that not many gyms will have. If your gym does have it, make use of it. So this exercise will really work that core, but will also work pretty much every muscle in the body. It's one of the best moves that you can do. So if you're not lucky enough to have one of these in your gym, there is an alternative to do in a yoke walk that will simulate the same thing but without the specialized equipment, and we'll be looking at that later on in the video. So now we're going to go through setting up for the actual move. The first thing you want to do is make sure that the center bar, is the right height for you. Now this will obviously change depending on the height of the person. Shorter, obviously you're going to bring it down, and you will normally have things like this where it's just a pin that you're going to take out and you drop it down or bring it up. Taller people are going to need it higher. The idea of this is that when you lift it up off the ground, that you're going to have clearance of somewhere between 4 and 6 inches. So to make sure it's in the right position for me, it's sort of top of my chest, but just to double check, I'm just going to get in under the bar. So you want it as if you're going to do a squat. You're having it in the center of your back and you're going to lift up. So here we see that the clearance is 4 to 6 inches off the ground, which means that the bar is set at the correct height. Now we see that the bar is set too low, which means that the yoke is too high off the ground, which causes a swinging motion. This will mean that you're very unstable and will add an extra difficulty to the yoke walk. Here we see what happens when the bar is set too high. It will lead to the yoke being closer to the ground, and as you'll see, it starts dragging along the ground and can trip you up. So another thing to keep in mind is whether you prefer a high or a low bar position. So anybody that's big into their squats will have a preference usually for a high or low bar. If you don't, just put it on top of the shoulders. High bar position is the best way to go for a beginner. So I'm just going to show you the two positions that you can take. The best thing I can say to you with this is play around with it. Try it yourself. You will find the sweet spot for yourself for this exercise and go with that. This is the high bar position. This is the position that a lot of people will first do their squats in. You want to be careful not to put the bar too high onto your shoulders where it goes up onto your neck. That will cause a lot of weight to be pulling your upper body forward, which will force the front of the yoke walk into the ground and may trip you up. Next we've got our low bar position. This is a position that a lot of experienced lifters will move to. It lowers the weight on the body down towards the ground, which allows you to be a lot more stable in your lift. However, you do have to be careful that it's not too low, that it's going to slip off your back, which you see in this clip. So next is to decide what to do with your arms. People will have different techniques for this. Some people will like to wrap them around the outside of the bar and pull inwards. Some people will have them at the back and push forwards, and some people will even have them up here on the bar like a squat. It's totally up to yourself. I find the squat position a little bit less comfortable and a little bit less momentum through the yoke walk, but it's personal preference, so again, play around with it. One thing to keep in mind though, whatever position you are doing, you want to be pushing in to lock in your back, but you also want to be pushing forward. So you want that forward momentum all of the time, and that will help you get those numbers up on the yoke walk. So you'll notice with this, I'm doing a slight bit different. I'm using my surroundings, what I have to work with, but I'm using unlevel ground and a grass surface. Most people will use this, and in the competitions you'll see on tarmac or just normal roads. That's the best place to do it. However, this is really good for training your stabilizing muscles as well as doing the yoke walk, because you're having to compensate so much for the unlevel ground. It does add a certain amount of risk, but if you have a little bit more experience and you can do it like this, go for it. Now we're going to look at foot position. So, firstly we have our neutral stance. This is where the feet are hip distance apart. They are directly under the body, which allows you to have a good base of support for lifting that yoke off the ground. It also gives you a good base to begin your run because your feet are the right distance for you to start taking your steps. Once people get a little bit more used to the yoke walk, some prefer to have a staggered stance. Now this, again, feet are directly under the body. However, one foot is slightly in front of the other. The difference with this is, although you still have a really good base of support, that you are already in the position to take a running step forward. So the momentum is already going forward once you lift the yoke. This is very important because the yoke walk is all about speed, so it allows you to get a faster start. Although a wider stance may make it easier to lift the yoke, this will make it a lot harder to begin your run because the feet have to start edging in as you move forward. One of the most important safety aspects of this move is how to brace correctly. This will decide whether you're going to do the move correctly and not injure yourself, or whether you're going to injure yourself badly. So I'm not going to go too much into how to brace in this video. However, if you check out my previous video, I go through the whole technique on how to brace correctly. So check that out before you start doing this move. So you'll all be familiar with the belt, and this is an assist to bracing. And when we go a little bit heavier on the yoke and in some of the other moves, we will be wearing this, and I will be showing you how to use this. However, for this move, while I'm demonstrating it, I'm going to be a little bit lighter, so I'm just going to use my core strength and my abs to brace. So what you don't want to do is take that big breath into your chest. Now if you take big breath into your chest, you can visibly see that I get taller. Now that will raise my center of gravity, which will mean I'll be a little bit more off balance. What you actually want with the yoke walk is to become more squat and actually become lower to the ground, and that makes you more stabilized. So we're going to be doing belly breathing, and again, check out my video on belly breathing and you will see how it's done. I'm going to take a big breath into my belly, and that will push my abs and my back muscles out, which stabilizes my spine, and that's what we're looking for, as much spine stabilization as possible with this move. So when you are about to lift, you're going to take your belly breath and brace and up. Through the whole walk, through the whole yoke walk, you're going to want to keep that brace position all the way through. You want to keep shallow breaths. Now we're going to look at the complete move all the way through. Firstly, you're going to get in under the yoke. You're going to position your feet either in a staggered or a regular stance. You're going to take a big belly breath into your stomach to protect your spine and lock in your core. Then you're going to lift the yoke, and you're going to begin to run forward. All the time, you're keeping your stomach braced, keeping shallow breathing, and also pushing forward with those hands and constantly making your momentum push forward. Move forward as fast as you can using small steps, which will help your balance and allow you to keep control. One tip to keep in mind is keep that head up the whole way through the exercise. Number one, it will keep that back straight. It will stop you from hunching over at the top. But also, if you keep the head down and you look at the finish line towards the end, there's a good chance that you will stop before you cross the finish line. And that's quite embarrassing. You definitely don't want to do that. So now you know how to do the move. I'm going to give you my experience on how to implement that into your program. Now, you want to do this maximum, if you're going heavy, you want to do it maximum once a week. This is going to be very, very hard on your central nervous system, and to avoid getting overtired and it damaging the rest of your training, once a week is more than enough for this. If you're going heavy, that's about 85% of your 1 rep max plus. You want to be doing maybe 15 to 20 meters. That's about the maximum you'd want to be going. When you're going to a medium sort of range, which is 70% to 85%, that's where you'd want to be going for your 20 to 50 meters. And finally, you've got your lighter cardio conditioning training with the yoke, and that would be going at anything up to 70% of your 1 rep max, and it will be 50 meters or plus. So I promised an alternative to anyone who doesn't have access to a yoke. there's not many alternatives. It's quite a tough exercise to replicate without the actual equipment. However, there's one way around doing it. What you don't want to do is put a barbell on your back and start running around the gym with 300 pounds or 150 kg, because if you do go over, game over, you're gone. So what you need instead is just these couple of pieces of equipment here. You need a normal barbell, okay? And you also need, if you can, some sort of chains. A lot of gyms will have chains to use while training. However, it's very easy to make these up, and you can just use the chains for this, or just pop some carabiners onto the chains at a point and add in some weights as well. By using this alternative, if you were to fall forward, the weights that are connected to chains would hit the ground first, and the only weight that would land on you is the barbell, which again isn't that nice. However, it's a lot better than 100 kg coming down on your head. So with those chains, you can loop them over, add in some weights if you need to, and obviously as you get used to the move you will be piling on a little bit more weight. But it's the best way to simulate the yoke walk, and it's the safest way as well. So now you know how to do a yoke walk. I really hope you found this video helpful, and hopefully you'll be able to incorporate this into your training program. So if you did find this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you get notified of any of my upcoming videos.